So, um, can we talk about the differences maybe between a corporate guardian and what a family guardian is, and what they do and aren't able to do in their role?
That's a totally applicable topic. We get that question a lot when community members are calling in. Even when we are beginning work with a person as a corporate guardian and we're having contact with the family, um, we have to be clear about what we as corporate guardians are able to do, and that can look very different than what a family guardian will do. As you can imagine, we as corporate guardians are managing larger caseloads. We've got multiple people that we're working with. Time management becomes something that has to be monitored very carefully. We have criteria from the state that is set up by the Department of Aging and Adult Services, and we operate by that criteria, but very often are seeing our people interacting with our supported people way more than that criteria mandates. As a family guardian, it is going to be much more of an existing relationship. You're going to see much more of the person. Corporate guardians are going to be working more in the background with the providers, and then the providers and the family. We try to nurture those relationships as the corporate guardian. If in fact you are a family guardian, I think that that time spent is just going to be much more increased. And
Mhm.
that's the reason the court prefers a family member over a corporate guardian or over DSS, a disinterested public agent. Families are always best when it can happen. Unfortunately, it can't happen for everyone.
Right, right. Well, if somebody were a family guardian and a change needed to be made because of critical illness or death of the guardian, what does the process look like in order to make a change like that? Is that something that I'm just going to want to put in my will, who the next guardian should be, or is it much more formalized than that?
Can look different ways. If we were going to work with a family under a private contract, they would enter into their will their wishes, and then at the time of the change, whether it was incapacitation or death, those wishes would be implemented and they go into effect, and then the court processes start. So you're still going to land in a place where you're in front of the clerk, and the clerk does, in fact, have to agree to this prior arrangement. But
Mhm.
in almost every case, the clerk would agree to that because it's well organized and it accomplishes the support that's needed. And so you would still go through that petitioning and hearing process, but it would be initiated by the wishes of the family before the major life change happened.
Okay, okay. Does a person need to hire an attorney in order to do any of these things?
It's not necessary. We do not often use one in the work that we do. However, I do hear that there are some counties who really prefer having an attorney representing the person. You can know and be assured that a guardian ad litem will be appointed for anyone who is subject to guardianship, even potentially. And that guardian ad litem is different than a guardian ad litem who's a volunteer that would work with teens. This is a lawyer who represents the best interest of the person in that court hearing. And so they are going to prioritize that individual even over, the wishes of the corporation or the family or any interested party. They are there for the supported person to make sure that if they're going to go into guardianship, that it's warranted. Um, and that's a great segue, honestly, into some of the changes that happened in 2024 because
Yeah.
the GALs, the guardian ad litems, they are now bound by that statute to discuss these less restrictive interventions, to attest to why those less restrictive options won't work. And if they attest to that and they feel that it's in the best interest of the person to go full guardianship, then that would be their recommendation. But it also creates lots of pathways to talk about how would this alternative work? How would this alternative work? And what's new is that conversation has to happen face to face now.
Mm.
So you may see a little extension of the timetable because there are more continued hearings if the GAL has not been able to find the person or be connected with the person for whatever reason. it may add a continuance or two to the process, but it's super valuable conversation to be had with the person who may be under guardianship and also with that family.